Welcome to Toffee TV. It's the player ratings. Chelsea 1, Everton 0. Disappointing result down at Stamford Bridge. Been saying that for 30 odd years. Yeah, let's get into it. We've already spoke about the game. Let's get into it. Jordan Pickford made 6 saves. Seen some people critical of the goal they got about the kick, and whether you think it's a good kick or a bad kick, I think the centre forward should be able to control it and lay it off without losing it. That's just my opinion. And if you don't, play it, I've heard someone say, well, you already know Bettel's not going to be controlled, so why would you play it to him? You can't, I don't think you can think like that at that level. He made some good saves, to be honest. Made a couple of really good saves in the first half and a couple of good saves in the second half. A couple of real low ones down into the corner. There's one in the second half when it was 1-0. Tipped it round the post, which I thought he'd done really well with. So, listen, everyone can have their own opinion on what they think regarding the goal we conceded, but I just didn't think I didn't think it was his fault. That's my opinion. So Pickford, I would give a 7.5 for today. Nathan Patterson, obviously, big talking point whether he was going to come into the side, whether we were going to keep going with Jake O'Brien, put Michael Keane there. He decided to go with Nathan Patterson, give him an opportunity, have a little look at him. Sadly, he only lasted 64 minutes. I just think. Now, listen, he hasn't played a game at right back for over a year. God, started one. I don't even know how long it is. Obviously, he got injured at Chelsea last season. I just think he looks quite hesitant. I look at him and think, does he truly believe that he belongs at this level? Now, listen, that's an obvious way to think when you haven't been getting into the team and you have been out with so many injuries. He's not, the player who started Frank Lampard's first season that he had a pre-season. He looked aggressive and he wanted to get up and down the pitch and he looked really confident. He looked slightly shell of that player. And I thought when Ashley Young came on, you could see that, where Ashley Young immediately was in control of the situation and very confident, and that's using all his experience. He was still beaten a couple of times by the winger, but his body language told me that he was a player that was very calm and very confident and everything going on. Doesn't mean that Nathan Patterson had a terrible game. Won 4 out of his 7 ground duels, 4 tackles, 1 clearance. Was dribbled past once. But to me, it's more in when you actually look at him and think, does he look like a player that really believes in himself and believes he's like a Premier League player who can play there every week? And I just looked at him today. And listen, I'm not writing him off by any means. I'd still like to see him given the remaining games this season. But the manager has to balance that up with winning games of football as well. And I think we'd all like to sit here and think that the remaining games of the season are giving players an opportunity. I think Moyes knows already who he wants to keep, and maybe he's given a couple of players an opportunity just to put his own mind at ease, maybe, or just give those players maybe an opportunity to surprise him. I think Carlos Alcaraz is one of those players who, out of anyone in the squad, who needs to start plays, and we'll come on to him in a bit, but who does need to start games now. But I just wonder, being taken off after 64 minutes, is if that's the end for Nathan Patterson. I know you can only take it game by game, but if you're trying to learn something about a player, you just leave him on the pitch. Yeah. And maybe we just have to all hold our hands up and say he's not ever going to get any better, and that's just the way it is. Or if he is going to get better, it's playing games at a level where he is good enough and that helps him kick on. we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. I didn't think he had a particularly good game today in terms of just looking at him, thinking, can you get up? He put one cross in the first half, which the defender we built up probably our best move of the first half. Built up quite well. He put a decent ball into the box, and that was probably only one moment attacking. But yeah, I just look at him as a player and think I'm not sure you're ever gonna be the player that we need. I think time may have run out for him, and I think Everton will be looking at other options at right back, to go into that spot, or just keep going with Jake O'Brien for the time being. Maybe next season, I'm not sure. I'd like to see a right back come in, and take that role, and we'll have to move on. So Nathan Patterson, I would give a 6 for today. On the other side, Michalenko had his moments. Again, against the wingers, I thought he did all right. Not amazing, did all right. Only won 3 of his 10 ground duels. Won one out of his 2 aerial duels. 2 interceptions, dribble past 3 times. That's not like Michalenko. Did actually get quite high up the pitch. Can see his heat map there. But his balls into the box were disappointing. Let's get it right. His balls into the box were very disappointing. I thought there was a couple of moments as well where I think he should have had a penalty as well. Put it that. I think definitely he should have had a penalty, Michalenko. I think when the goalie went through, to me that's a penalty. And I'm just going to keep talking about that until I'm blue in the face. I think he should have had a penalty because I think it was a penalty. Why the commentators never made more of it, I'll never know. But I think he should have had a penalty. But yeah, wasn't a brilliant game for him. Wasn't terrible, wasn't a brilliant game for him. So Michalenko, I'd give a 6.4 for today's performance. Jake O'Brien, obviously, a lot of talk about him going into the back line. I thought he coped quite well. He's not James Tarkowski. He doesn't have the experience. He doesn't have maybe the aggression. 3 clearances, 1 interception, 1 total tackle, dribble pass once. Won 3 of his 5 ground duels, 2 of his 3 aerial duels. I think the only place you could probably criticise him was the goal. Probably on the goal. I think him and Branthwaite are not alive to the situation quick enough, which means that Jackson is on his own. I think they have to be quicker to get up the pitch and recognise the danger. So for Jay, I thought for his first game, that's his first game, isn't it, in the Premier League, starting as a centre-back. I thought for his first game, I thought he did all right. Things to improve on, of course, but I thought he did all right. So Jake O'Brien, I would give a 7 for today. Jared Branthwaite, I thought Jared, I spoke about it yesterday on the Starting 11 show about Jared Branthwaite being more of a leader, not just, I've talked about this for years. A centre-back, there's always an alpha and there's always a beta. There's always the guy who leads the line. There's always the guy who's in charge of the back four. James Tarkowski with Branthwaite has always been the alpha. And that's been great for Jared Branthwaite because you're learning then off someone with all that experience. Or you always have that. You always have had that with centre-backs at Everton forever. It's actually one of the major issues with Michael Keane is he's not an alpha, never has been an alpha. So when he was asked to step up to be an alpha, he could never take that on as a senior centre-back. Jared was asked to be the centre-back today, the alpha centre-back, and I thought he did really well in that role. Won 3 out of his 4 ground duels, actually won 2 out of his 5 aerial duels. But I thought was strong in the air when he needed to be. Again, the only thing you'd look at is maybe the goal and say, again, like I've just said about Jake O'Brien, should those two be more switched on to see that danger? But I think defensively, I thought he did well. I think people pulled him up last week about not cutting out crosses. I thought he did quite well and was switched on to that today, getting over to cover Michalenko. Thought he did that quite well. But all in all, I thought he was probably Everton's man of the match today. yeah, I think he was just about Evans man of the match today. Maybe Pickford with some of his saves could maybe people might say it was him, but I thought all in all, I think he looked quite strong, and it's good to see that side of him as well. As I said, people will clearly be looking. People who are not at Everton will be looking at that side of his game and seeing whether he's got that. And I thought today he did have that. So I would give Jared Brantwaite a 7.6 for today's performance. Adesina Gay, I felt like he was in midfield on his own at times. He actually got one decent shot off as well. Won 4 of his 9 ground duels, which is he normally does a little bit better than that. I thought he was fine. Four tackles. I thought he was fine. I don't think he had as much of an influence as he has had on some games. I thought our midfield were quite weak today because we just don't control the ball in there. And for part of it, we were chasing shadows, and that might have been more about the makeup of it. But I thought Ghana Gay was fine. Did what he normally does. He's just playing against when you're playing against the better teams and you're playing away, it just becomes so much harder, especially against a team that controls the ball so well. So it wasn't easy for him in there. And as I said, it's what surrounds him. But he just does his job regardless. And sometimes when the opposition has more of the ball, you obviously see more of Adesina Gay because he's got to do more work. So Ghana, I'd give a 6.9 for today's performance. Alongside him, James Garner. Yeah, I mean, listen, won 3 out of 5 ground duels, 91% pass accuracy. I just don't think we control the game up well enough in midfield, and I think James Garner has to do more to help us do that. I don't think he's comfortable enough on the ball. I don't think he's a good enough passer, and I don't think he sees a pass quick enough. So that's not good from a start. I think we can do better than James Garner. He's doing all right, but I think we can do better than James Garner. His set pieces were dreadful today. Absolutely dreadful. And I remember back when we bought him and being told that his set pieces were brilliant and for set pieces for Forest were brilliant. I've not seen it while he's been at Everton. It's been a really major negative, is that I've not seen his set pieces. He's a fine, tidy player, but he doesn't move the needle. He's not going to get his propellers up the table. He doesn't have enough about his game. He's never going to kick on, by the way, either. He's going to get more competence in what he does, but he's never going to kick on. He's never going to become this amazing footballer. I think that's really important to stress. He's never going to gain the attributes that we want from him to move us. He's a squad player. I think people have got and we've got quite a few of those players who start for us or who are already on the bench. They are squad players if you had a good side. You want to push players like James Garner onto the bench. If you're going to be a good side, I'm sorry. It just doesn't show enough. Maybe set pieces is where he shows. Set pieces, just seen in the comments then, 0 out of 10. You're absolutely right. His set pieces are dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. He covers listen, don't get me wrong, he covers the ground where he gets around the pitch, gets around the centre of the pitch nicely, but what's he adding from midfield to the attack? Very, very little. And I think that's something that we have to massively improve on. James Garner, I'd give a 6.3 for today. Abdoulaye Doucouré, I thought he was really poor today. Had a really good opportunity in the first half. That header, he might as well have been clearing it for it at the other end. Absolutely woeful. Game just passed him by today. Absolutely passed him by. Won 4 out of his 10 ground duels. Didn't do anything either way. Didn't do anything in the final third and didn't do anything defensively for us. Just a dread. I thought he was dreadful, if I'm honest. Really, he makes the simple look ludicrously hard at times. He really does. I mean, I know, listen, his last away game, he's the hero, scoring in the last minute. And then you have games like this where I just thought he was really, really poor. Again, it's diminishing returns now. Diminishing returns. Will he get a listen, loads of people won't want him to get a contact. If he gets a contact, he gets a contact. If he doesn't, he doesn't. I won't lose any sleep either way. As long as Everton cover the position, I'm not really that bothered. They've just got to cover the position. Some people probably say that wouldn't be too hard, but for me, Carlos Alcaraz has to start next week. And then Carlos Alcaraz has to start the next 3 games. Or the next 4 games. But certainly, I think he's got to start the next 3 games. To get a good look at him. Because I honestly believe Carlos Alcaraz now is the only sort of player that Moyes will be having thoughts on whether he should sign him or not. I honestly do. I think he's probably made his mind up on every other player. Alcaraz will be the only one. And I think the only way we find that out is if he starts games in his preferred position and gets an opportunity. So the core 8, I'd give a 5 to today. Jack Harrison didn't really offer too much either. Just a typical Jack Harrison performance. 1 key pass, 50% accurate passes from 14 passes. 63 minutes. I think we've all made our decision on Jack Harrison. He won't be an Everton player next year, I imagine. And did very little to affect the game today, as basically is the way in general. So Jack Harrison, a 5.7 I would give him. He just didn't do anything for me, sadly. And on the other side, in Jai, again, hasn't really done anything since he come back, has he? Only lasted 45 minutes. Don't know whether that's an injury thing or whether the manager had seen enough, thought he could affect the game another way. Won 2 out of his 3 ground duels. Dribbles at only 1 dribble. Unsuccessful. Yeah, didn't really show too much of anything, to be honest. As I said, he's not been the same player since he come back from his injury. And didn't really show anything today in that first. I mean, don't get me wrong, we were dreadful in that first half, but didn't really show anything at all. So, in Jai, I would give a 5.5 because he just didn't do anything. And Beto, I think he got our first shot on target, taken off after 64 minutes. Beto is Beto, isn't he? When he was on his purple patch, then everything was amazing, wasn't it? But sadly, he's just not. That'd be nice. He's just not a good enough footballer. And that moment with the goal tells me that if a player plays a ball up to you, you've got to be able to, as a centre forward, get it under control and get it to an Everton player within a touch or 2. I just don't think he's a good enough player. I just don't think he's a good enough player to. You've got to be able to make chances as well for yourself, and I don't think he does that. I just don't think he's good enough. I've been fairly consistent in that. I think he wants too much time on the ball. I think if you get him one-on-one, he's great most of the time. I just don't think he's good enough. And if Everton get an opportunity to sell him in the summer, I'd sell him. And I think games like this prove he's not good enough. It's as simple as that. You can't blame everybody else for him not getting chances, but I just don't think he's a good enough footballer. And that's it. That's all it comes down to. I don't think it's rocket science. I don't think it's being harsh on him. I just don't think he's good enough at football to play, to lead the line for Everton. And I just think that when the summer comes, we have to, if we get an offer for him, we take the offer, and we that will help our PSR, and we go and get somebody else. And that's it. That's it. That's not being horrible. That's not being um no abusive or anything. I just don't think he's a good enough footballer, sadly. And we just need to move on from it as quickly as we can. If some Italian club's stupid enough to give us like 20 million quid for him, take it. Take it. 20 million, 21 million, 22 million, somewhere around there. Take it and run away as fast as you can. Because he'll score goals in Italy. He'll get more time and more chances. I think the Premier League's just too fast and frenetic and too physical for him, for his style. And that's it, really. I just don't think he gives you anything. So I'm sure an Italian team will be stupid enough to give us like 20 million quid for him. Because he scored goals over there. Beto, I'll give a 5-2 today. Subs, I thought subs did make a difference when they came on. I thought Alcaraz, I thought he offered something. Thought when he picked up the ball, when he runs, looks like he's got something in his head of what he wants to do. Nearly had an assist when he played the ball into Dwight McNeil. And I'd like to see him start. It's as simple as that. I'd like to see him get closer to the goal. I'd like to see whether he's got the ability to knit the midfield together and be that focal point where the core is playing. And I think this is the opportunity now. I don't think he can. No, if he plays the next three, we're not triggering any contracts or anything. And I do think the next three represent an opportunity to see if he's good enough to play in the Premier League. I think he's, as I said before, I think he's the one player now you have to make a decision on. Play him in that central role, and let's see. We need a player in the centre of a park who can pick the ball up and run with it. We just don't have that player in our team. Don't have it anywhere in the midfield who can run with the ball. It's like the ball is square when our players run with it. So I'd like to see him given opportunities. So I thought he did well when he came on and fashioned a couple of good opportunities for us. He's not the finished article by any means, but I'd like to see him given that chance. So I'd give Carlos Alcaraz a 7. Dwight McNeil, come on the right. He did all right. Had maybe our best opportunity to get a draw. Am I being harsh by saying maybe he could have hit that a bit cleaner and maybe not bobbled it into the ground? Maybe not. Depends which side you're on. He did all right. He wasn't amazing. I thought there was a couple of times he picked the ball up and side runs and run into nowhere, but I think he's got an idea of what he wants to do. It just doesn't come off all the time because I don't think he's quick enough. He did all right. Give him a 6.5. Ashley Young came on for the last 25 minutes. Again, fine, because this is what Ashley Young was brought to the football club to do, to come onto the pitch and help us out in situations. Very calm, always in control. Yeah, just looks like a player in control of what he wants to do. Again, just a little bit more of a calm and when the winger's facing him up. Listen, I think he got skinned once, but when a winger's facing him up, has the experience to know what to try and do against that winger. So again, I thought he was fine when he came on. I thought it helped. I thought it gave them, it just made it a little bit more difficult for them, and he did get up the pitch as well. So Ashley Young, I'd give a 6.62. And Schmitty, who I did want to see, but I don't think he really helped himself. Stayed offside a few times, and also did what Beto did. Got the ball with the back to goal and wanted too many touches instead of just getting it and laying it off and then going. Want that extra touch. You don't get the extra touch in the Premier League. Schmidt might be someone that the manager looks at in the next couple of weeks as well. Because decisions, Everton are in a really unique position that have got 4 centre forwards and none of them might be at Everton next season, or certainly none of them will be starting for Everton next season. And that's a very unique perspective. I think if Dom comes back, Dom will start. I think if Dom is fit for any of the games, he'll start the games, I imagine. Because the manager will look at Brozier, look at Beto, and look at Chimiti and just think that they're not good enough. They don't give us enough. They just don't give us enough in the final third. They don't link the play. They don't get hold of the ball. They don't. They just don't craft enough. And Dom, you could probably put into that bracket as well. And I know a lot of people will put Dom. Maybe if you put all 4 of them together, you might come up with a really good centre forward. So we're in a really unique position where we've got 4 centre forwards and none of them might be starting for the club. Brozier will go back to Chelsea. Beto, if anyone comes up with a decent offer. I mean, the offer, I'm seeing a few people in the comments there talking about offer. The offer would have to match what we've got left, basically on him, isn't it? That's what we'd have to get, which would be if he was 28 million. What did he sign? A 5-year deal. Have to be around 18 million quid for Beto, I'd imagine. Chimiti's still very young and still very raw. The manager might look at him and think he can fashion something out of him like he did with a Anachabi and a James Vaughan kind of player. But we're in a unique situation. Chimiti, I'd give a 5 to as well. Yeah, so we'll see. But if anyone doesn't really understand how my ratings work, let me just let you in on a little secret. I don't rank them in like 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s, 5 and 6s. Is because the players were so fragile at Everton Football Club. I was told that they didn't like when they were being ranked 2s and 1s and 3s, apparently. This is what I was told. So I changed last season to be a little bit more accommodating so that it's in, 0.7 and 0.8, and so that no one would get too fragile about their scores. So if you got a 5, if you're getting a 5, it means you win. It means you didn't have a very good game. Let me just say that. But I was told professional footballers are too fragile to handle getting 2s and 3s. So I changed it slightly. There you go. There's nothing, I'm just trying to be nice. Just trying to be nice to the fragile people earning £100,000 a week. Just trying to be nice. No, I did give Taki a 0 once, but that's because he did something ridiculously stupid, if I remember rightly. You will get a 0 if you do something ridiculously stupid. I think didn't he get sent off? Well, no, he didn't get sent off. He did something. It was the Bournemouth game, wasn't it? Because he basically gave them 2 goals, so he got a 0. But that's fine because he will have understood that anyway. There you go. Listen, this game is gone. Move on. Ipswich on Saturday. It's done. Everton need a load of new players. We didn't learn that today, did we? We knew that already. So let's all move on. Final word on Monday. We'll be live as well about 1:00. So make sure you join us there. Check out Baz's videos as well. And I'll see you all later. Bye.